Hello there and welcome back on another Friday night for another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter. This week, I wanted to talk a little bit about being an expat versus being a digital nomad. With the world opening up again, there are so many people that are thinking about getting out there, that are going back to the nomad lifestyle and what that all encompasses, and a lot of people getting confused along the way between what is an expat and what is a digital nomad and some of the differences between the two. Yes, these are only names, just arguing semantics here, but I do feel as though it is a worthwhile conversation to have just because there are some subtleties that come along with each one of them that may be completely incorrect for the lifestyle that certain people are looking to live. Another reason why I want to get deeper into this discussion is because when looking up information online, it can really be helpful to understand what is the correct terminology to be using here. I have some strong opinions about this, and I know there are a lot of people who completely disagree with the notions that I have. But from where I stand, a digital nomad is not an expat. They are somebody who's traveling and working, living in a bubble. There is also an expat bubble that people end up living in. Many expats fall into, but I would say it's very different. When you are traveling around as a digital nomad, I don't want to say that you're on vacation, but it's not that you're not on vacation either. It's just you happen to be working during that vacation as well, and maybe not have some of the same freedoms that somebody that would just be traveling around may have. But one of the reasons why I do say that digital nomads are not expats, that they have not really embraced a lifestyle abroad, is that yes, they are abroad, they are out of their country, but what's embraced in that lifestyle is being in a different place. Just existing in that place, not taking the place in, not making that place your home. And that is one thing that I would argue expats get closer to, but not all expats. There are many expats, like I was saying, who fall into the expat bubbles and do not fully take in everything that a country has to offer. When you are living abroad and you are living as an expat, you are making your life there. And more often than not, expats will get work in the country where they are. But the area where there's some crossover between an expat and a digital nomad is that now a lot of expats are working online, supporting themselves in a very similar way to a digital nomad. And being a digital nomad, one of the key things is nomadic lifestyle, being able to go where you want. But the difficult reality of that is there are so many digital nomads that don't understand everything that comes along with that. If you are going to be in a certain country, you have to realize the legalities of it. And there are so many digital nomads that are interested only in going to a country just to be there. They go on the tourist visa, they do what they do, and they just work and make their living however they're going to do it. But technically, in a lot of countries, if you are there earning a living regardless, you are supposed to declare that income in that country, even if there are a lot of people who end up not doing that because of the requirements and because of how when you're there, you don't fully take in everything that the person who would be living there, the person who really is spending their full time there, would be required to do. If you're a digital nomad, you can just pick up, leave, and go. And I'm not here to speak negatively about being a digital nomad, but there are some important realities to consider when we're talking about the differences. What's an expat? What's a digital nomad? Many expats will also think of being in a place for longer than a year, a few years at the very least. But that's not to say that an expat won't go back to their country. There are many people who do stay abroad for the rest of their lives. And that's something that I've embraced, for example, is that when I left the United States, that's when I left. I have embraced living abroad full time, 365 days a year. And that's not to say anything about how I feel about America, because I do have love for that country that I grew up in. I'm so grateful that I grew up there. But there is so much more to see in the world and so much more to experience. This is also one of the defining details details that I would say kind of comes between digital nomad and expat is that an expat, like I was saying before, really does stay in the area. Like I was saying also, they do embrace more of what that place has to offer, but not only do they embrace it, but they often will become a part of it. Digital nomads can often find themselves in digital nomad communities where they are just there with their friends doing their thing. And that's not a bad thing at all. And having this mobile community around the world can actually be a benefit, that you can enjoy different places but keep a somewhat similar friend group. I have a relative who's done that and has very much embraced that lifestyle and truly loved it, made a lot of great connections with a lot of great friends. They go to this part of the world, they end up in that part of the world, and that's great for some people. But there are also other people who are looking for a more solid lifestyle, to be able to be in a place and have a normal life, not just feeling like you're on vacation all the time. For me, I can't live like that. I can't live like, oh, I'm here at the beach, I'm doing this. No. If I'm working, I need to have my own office space. Even if it's in my own home, I prefer to work with at least 2 monitors. Nowadays, yes, if you do want to work in that way, you can get mobile monitors that you can just stuff into a bag and be able to make that work for you. Whereas I've seen a lot of expats will invest into their living spaces, will make sure that they are comfortable in their homes, whereas the prioritization for a digital nomad comes in the location. And okay, yeah, I'm in a nice place, I'm in a comfortable place, an Airbnb, a hotel, whatever it might be, but it's not necessarily that it's their space. They are in that space, they do dwell in that space for a temporary period, but it's not where they can call home, whereas expats often make a home for themselves abroad. They make that place where they can go back at home. They have their pictures on the wall, depending on the type of contract that they have, and if they can even put holes in the wall. And that is definitely an issue I have come across in my time abroad, being in different apartments in different countries, and finding myself in the position that, oh yeah, if you want to put holes in the wall, then you're going to pay, and you're going to this, and you're going to, like, okay, this is one of the reasons why I have these the room dividers behind me. They're really just up against the wall, but I can hang stuff off of them. That's why they're there. Cheaper than having to pay for the walls to be redone if I decide to move out of this apartment at some point. But that's the thing for me. I really do enjoy having my space, being able to come to my home, not being in somebody else's bed with sheets and pillows and stuff like that, that have been shared by a million people before me and probably going to be another million people after me. I get to have my pillow, my blankets, my bed just set up the way that I like it. Not to say that a digital nomad wouldn't have their pillow, but when you're living out of a couple of suitcases, that can be difficult. And also to consider, if you are somebody who is wanting to travel around the world and have the option to go to Asia, to go to Europe, to go to South America, North America, and to be constantly going from place to place, you are not going to want 100-pound suitcases with you every time you have to transfer between locations. You might just want a backpack, like a hiking backpack, or like a small suitcase and a backpack that you can kind of carry with you as carry-on. And I know a lot of people who do travel and live like that out of a suitcase. And that's the other thing for me as somebody who considers themselves as an expat. Okay, there's going to be people who are listening or watching this that, but you're a dual citizen, you live in Italy, you're Italian, If I'm Italian or not, that's a different discussion. I mean, I am Italian, but socially in Italy is an Italian American and Italian. That's a discussion for a different video, and it's a topic I love going into. If I'm in the States, of course, I am Italian. This is what I am. I can't escape it, but whatever. I'm going on a whole rant here, but that's why I refer to myself as a dual citizen expat, because I am from another country. I grew up in another culture. But I have embraced a life in Italy, to embrace the lifestyle and all of the good and not so good that comes along with it. There are very difficult moments that can come along. And that's one thing that as an expat you will face is the taxes, taxation, social security, and all of these other different things. If you're an American citizen, then there are other considerations that you'll have to take into account if you move abroad. Whereas if you're a digital nomad and you're able to figure out a way of not being liable in all of the different countries that you go to have to pay taxes there, and that you're not not technically a tax resident there, then maybe you'll only ever have to worry about the taxes in your home country if you're an American citizen. If you're not an American citizen, then that may change depending on where you're from and how the system in your country works, because you also have to take into consideration how it is that you're getting paid, how you're doing your banking, how it is that you're receiving money when you're getting paid. Do you have a bank account in your home country? Do you have a bank account in another country? Do you have some online bank account somewhere that doesn't technically exist, but you have to still give them an address anyway? What's that address going to be? Is it going to be a home that you keep or an apartment that you keep up with in your country of origin? Is it going to be your parents' address? What is it going to be? That will also potentially define what kind of taxes and where you'll have to pay them. And that's something that you should definitely speak with somebody who is properly qualified in the situation. Not all accountants are familiar with the situation for expats, or especially for Americans who live abroad. This is something that you need somebody who knows what the situation is and how to deal with it. But the problem with that is that a lot of the accountants out there that do specialize in expat services charge a lot more than maybe they should for a normal tax return at the end of the year. It's extremely annoying. So you don't necessarily have to go to an expat specialist, but somebody who knows what they are talking about and what they are doing to keep you above board. But then also another thing, more on the social level, something that a lot of people really forget to take into account in their life and what they do and how they live their lifestyle. Think about where you are. Think about the people around you. Think about the community around you. Think about your friends. Think about your family. Do you have those people around you? If you do, and if they are a major part of your life, that is something to consider. Are you willing to give up those regular interactions? Yes, we have Zoom, we have Skype, we have WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. We have all these different ways of keeping in contact with family and friends from abroad. But as time goes on, and this goes the same somewhat for digital nomads and expats, but maybe to a lesser degree for digital nomads, because I know plenty of digital nomads that I can say, and I'm generalizing this whole video, I definitely admit to that in this video. But there are many digital nomads who will end up going back to their home country and seeing those people that they know and love, maybe a couple times a year, maybe once a year, maybe every other year. But also expats, they might just travel home once a year. They may never travel home. But I've noticed a lot of English-speaking expats at least go home once or twice a year. It's just a trend that I've noticed. Not all, though. Like I said, I'm generalizing. But the big thing is that if those people are important to you and that lifestyle and having that connection with those people are important to you, that's something you may have to sacrifice, at least to an extent. I was speaking to someone recently who has been living abroad for quite a while now, and they had spoken to a friend of theirs back in their home country and heard about this meeting of friends that they were all like really great buddies like 30, 40 years ago, and they all got together for the first time in a long time, had lunch together, had a great time, reminisced, and are planning to get together again soon, because now with things opening up in the world, they have that ability and option to do so again. They wanted to seize the moment, especially after all this time that they hadn't seen each other. And so this person was like, I would have enjoyed going to that. Am I disappointed that I didn't go? Not necessarily, but this person told me that it was almost a shame that they didn't have a chance to go see these people who they used to go and spend so much time with. And that's the thing. When you move abroad and you are spending a lot of time abroad, especially for digital nomads, though, to find those people that you can build up a relationship with and go spend time with and have a real community around you, that is something that can often be lacking. You have difficulty with building up those longer term relationships and deeper relationships as well. But this is also a problem that an expat can face almost as easily, because depending on the country that you're in, you may have the consideration over your head that you may only legally be guaranteed to be in that country for up to a year, up to 2 years, up to 5 years, up to X amount of years, 10 years, whatever it might be on the type of visa that you have. And having lived through that before, and this is something that I've talked about in a number of previous episodes, where living from visa to visa can get stressful. It can start getting difficult to set roots down in a place. I've used this example a million times, not only in my own content, but even talking online and in conversations with friends, with family, whatever. I've overused this, but there was a time when I was interested in investing in tools years ago. I enjoy building things with my hands. I enjoy some woodworking every once in a while. And I really wanted to buy a saw, a drill, a this, a that, and the other. And because of where I was living at the time, it just wasn't worthwhile because I didn't know if I would be there the following year, let alone in a few years after that point. So why would I want to make this investment in all of these things when I might have to sell them or not even have enough time to sell them to prepare to start leaving that country? So that's the other thing, is setting roots down in a country. And I'm not saying buying things is setting down roots, but it's a way of creating an emotional attachment, a deeper attachment to that country, actually making the place your home. The home doesn't necessarily mean the place you live in, but the place that you feel comfortable to return to, the place that pulls you back at the end of the day. Yes, the home is very much part of that, but say you go on a vacation somewhere. Where is it that pulls you back to remain? And I'm not talking about, oh, I went on a vacation someplace, it was so nice and I enjoyed it, and the fluffy, beautiful rainbows and unicorns and butterflies and all that stuff. No. I'm talking about, where is a place that you have lived? Where is a place that actually means something to you? Where you have that community, or where you have your job that you can support yourself and you enjoy living there? Or where is it that you can be and be yourself? That is the place where you can start to call home. But home isn't always a place. Home can be your family. Wherever your family is, that's where home can be for you. Wherever maybe one of your parents is, or both of your parents, where if they're together, separate, whatever, that may be the place that you consider home. Regardless of whether you've lived there or not, that person may represent that feeling to you. Could be your spouse. And to have that is a very special thing, and it is very important to hold on as an expat or a digital nomad, because there are those moments where everything is beautiful, everything is wonderful, everything is great, and you have to hold on to that. You have to remember those moments. And that's why people go and live abroad. But not every moment is perfect. And so in those more difficult moments, you have to remember those people that mean a lot to you and that you can reach out to, and that you have that ability. When I talk to people who are thinking about moving abroad and they're asking me information about what it's like, the thought experiment that I often like to run through is, imagine the people in your world. Imagine the people in your life. Imagine what you do, your work, your daily routines and everything. Say tomorrow, all the telephone lines were to completely go out. The internet completely shut off. Everything, the world completely changed as we know it. Would you be able to be disconnected from all of those people? Would you be able to mentally survive without all of that going on in your life? And granted, there are a lot of people who come from a home or family situation where they do need to get away from that, and that is the better option for them. So then in that case, maybe they can live through that. But maybe in other situations, say no telephone lines, no electricity, no anything, no flights. I mean, this was actually not completely the reality, but this was a partial reality in 2020, where expats and travelers and digital nomads were not able to necessarily go and see family members. Digital nomads had a little bit easier of a time because they weren't tied to a place and they could go back to their home countries, whereas expats in that situation maybe had a little bit more of a difficult time to go back to that other place that they once called home, because they had made their lives in these new places. So is that something that you can live with? Is that something that would be okay with you? If the world started ending tomorrow, would you be okay in the location where you are? And the reason why I am focusing on location, even though home isn't necessarily just the idea of the location, when we're talking about expats and digital nomads, this is a title, this is a description of somebody that comes along with the location or locations that they find themselves in, and depending on what basis they are there. Anyway, I think this is going to be the place where I wrap up this episode. So, of course, a huge thank you to the patrons who make content like this possible on a monthly basis. Thank you all so much for being a part of this and helping me to be able to continue with this project. And thank you also so much to everybody who's donated one time through PayPal. It is so greatly appreciated, as well as the people who bought the shirts, the mugs, the onesies, and more, and posters with pizza pasta amore. That's it. I'm moving to Italy. Italy, enough said. Or even, I don't know if you can see it back there, but pizza. Framed pizza on a poster. That's my favorite. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know there are a few things that I really post about other than Baby Yoda and pizza. More recently, a little bit more about tacos. Okay, maybe just one Instagram story. Anyway, I'm gonna cut myself off there. And thank you everybody so much for continuing to follow up with this project and to be a part of it, asking questions and to be a part of the conversation in the comment section below on YouTube. And thank you for subscribing and liking and sharing, whether it's on YouTube or the audio only podcast. I'm gonna finish this off here. So stay safe, stay healthy out there. I'm Rafael di Furia. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Not Your Average Globetrotter, and I'll see y'all next time. Later.